Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Christophe Chouinard. Welcome to this beginner Python tutorial where we will talk about Python tuples. In Python, tuples are data types that stores collections of data, that is, multiple items in a single variable. There are four main data types that stores collections of data: sets, dictionaries, lists, and tuples. What makes tuples interesting is it can make your code more strict. So essentially, tuples are ordered, they are unchangeable, immutable, they allow duplicate value, and they allow values of multiple data types. So let's get started with some examples. So the way you create a tuple is by using the parentheses. So this is an empty tuple. You could put as many values as you want and then return this as a type T, and you will see that this is a tuple. Let's learn how to work with tuples. We just seen an example how to create a tuple. Let's do it again just to sink that in. So T, 1, 2, 3, then you return the tuple. You just created the tuple. If you want to show the type of a tuple, we've seen that also x, 1, 2, 3, and then you could say type method on the tuple and you will return the data type of it. You can also select a single value using its index. So you can say T, 1, 1, 2, 3, and then you could say T index 0. So Python in zero-based indexing. So if you want to select the first value from the tuple, you use 0, not 1. So you start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. If you want to show the length of a tuple, then you could use the len method and return the length of the tuple. Next, as we've said, tuples are ordered. So what it means to be ordered is you can create a tuple like this and it will work properly. But you can also create a tuple that says 3, 2, 1 or 3, 1, and 2. Does that mean that this isn't a tuple? No, it's still a tuple. So saying that a tuple is ordered is simply says that the order will not change. It doesn't say that it cannot be non-alphabetical order or whatever thing we have in mind. Tuples are also unchangeable. So when you can take a list, for instance, and say 1, 2, 3, and you want to take, and if you want to change one element from the list, you could say index 0 and change it to the number 9. Then you could look at that list and you would have reassigned one of the values from the list. If you want to do that within a tuple, that wouldn't work. So if you want to do this T and you change the index and you want to say T equal 9, then what will happen is it will return a type error because a tuple object does not support item assignment. So Python tuples are immutable. What this means is that you cannot use methods such as sort on this. So you could use on a list and you could say list equal 3, 1, 2, and you could use ls sort. And what you would see here is that the list was sorted properly. If you want to do the same thing, but with a tuple, then you can use tsort and you will see that you cannot use the method sort within it because a tuple is immutable. So this makes tuple interesting because one, if you want to create an element that you don't want the code to be able to change later on, tuples are a safer bet because they cannot change as much as a list would be able to change. Tuples can also have multiple data types. So I could say T, and then I could decide to add an integer. I could decide to add a string, I could decide to add a dictionary, a I could have a boolean within a tuple, and I could have a tuple within a tuple. There are many other things you can do with tuples, but if we can print the type of t, then we can see that we still have a tuple, but if we print the type of t0, then we can see that within the tuple, we have an integer. If we decide that we want to create a tuple that has a single item, one thing to bear in mind is that you cannot just say hello like this, because if we return this, it will return a string. So if we type t, we'll see that this is a string. So the proper way to create a tuple with a single item is to use the hello, but you still leave the comma on. And if we look the type t, we'll see that we have a tuple. If we return t, we see that we probably have a tuple. Now let's look at tuple constructors. So Python has a built-in method which is kind of, you write tuple this way, and this is called a constructor. So you can use the tuple method to change the data type of an element. So for instance, I could have a list and I would say 1, 2, and I want to convert that to a tuple. So I use the tuple method on the list. And if I print the type t and then I return t, I'll see that my list became a tuple. And as we can see here, it returns properly. If we use the tuple method on a string, what will happen? Hello. What will happen is that each of the letter would be separated as a tuple. So it considers the string as an array and converts it into a tuple. You can also make a tuple from a dictionary by saying dict a equal 1, b equal 2, and c equal 3. So if we return the dict, we can see that we have a dictionary. So we can use the tuple method to show d, and if we return t, we'll see that we have a tuple. Let's talk about an empty tuple now. So you can easily create an empty tuple by saying x equal this and return an empty tuple, or you use a constructor by saying this and you return an empty tuple. So why would you ever need an empty tuple? Actually, almost never. However, there is one case is, for instance, if you want to add something if a condition is met. So you could say, I want to create a method that shows all the positive tuples that are less than the value x. So I could say if x is smaller or equal to 0, because I want positive tuples, return empty tuple. So you don't want to return no value, or you want to return an empty tuple. And else you want to return a tuple of range x. Then what you do is you could run that method and show if you have x equal 10, then you would return a tuple. But if you have x minus 10, then you would return an empty tuple. So that's always why Python creates stuff. Sometimes it doesn't seem so useful, but it may be in some very edge cases. The last item I want to discuss is tuples methods. So there are various methods that we can use to interact with the tuple. So we can use the count method to count the number of values. So I could use t count, and I want to count the number of trees within that tuple. So I can see that I have 4 trees in that tuple. You could get the index from a specific elements. So like this one is easy, you could count, but if you have like 200 elements within the tuple, if you want to get the index from the letter C, you could use T index and put your element that you want to do, and you'll know that 0, 1, 2. You'll see that C is indeed the index 2. If you have more than one value, so what will happen is if I say T index A, then it will show the index 0. It won't show the index number 0, 1, 2, 3. So one thing I could do is I could say, okay, just give me the index only from the value 3 to the value 5. The index 3 to the index 5. So if I use this, it will return me the index 3 that we just discussed. So that's it. We've covered everything we need to know about Python tuples in this beginner Python tutorial. So help me and subscribe to this channel and stay tuned. I have an upcoming Python course, so I will paste this in the description below once it's ready. So yes, please subscribe to my channel. You can go to my website, find some extra Python example, and maybe subscribe to my newsletter. See you next time.